Just a quick review of World War II. So how exactly did the Allies win World War II? Really, this comes down to four specific points: economic capacity, technology, military skill, and eventually we get to ideology. But these first three are really important because what we see is actually looking at the beginning of the war, like 1942-ish versus 1944-ish and beyond, we're actually going to see that the Axis powers are ahead in these three particular categories. So, for instance, economic capacity, being able to outproduce an enemy, tends to help with victory when it comes to warfare. But initially, the Axis powers are actually going to be the ones that controlled about 1/3 of the world's production and industrial raw materials. However, even initially when they did control this economic capacity, the Axis powers struggled to turn these into real military strengths. And then as the war goes on, you see the reaction of the Allied powers gaining advantage when it comes to economic capacity. It's things like the Soviet Union relocating and rebuilding all their manufacturing enterprises. It's like the United States rearming at an astonishing rate. And then the United States went on to outproduce all of their enemies combined. However, what they're producing also plays a huge role in this, and this is going into that technology. The United States and the Soviet Union are going to build more planes and tanks, but they're also going to build better planes and tanks. For instance, the T-34 is considered the most effective tank during World War II, and the Soviet Union is the one producing them. United States aircraft designers are going to be far ahead of German aircraft designers. And then you see other technology coming into play, such as the Allies are going to take a lead when it comes to communication systems, radar, code breaking capability, and then a big technological development that you could say has a direct impact on ending the war, the atomic bomb. But that brings us to the third category, military skill. We are going to see initially the Axis powers are outmaneuvering the Allies. But the Allies are going to learn hard lessons from these defeats. So, looking at the war again, Hitler's generals are going to outsmart the Soviet Union in 1941. Japan initially is outmaneuvering Great Britain and the United States in the Pacific theater. The German Navy came close to isolating Great Britain initially, but the tables were turned in about 1943 through 1944 because basically the Allies are going to devise new tactics, new ways to fight U-boats, and utilize their capability of their aircraft carriers. And this really brings us to the last point that gives the Allies an edge in this war. Basically, the Allies had the appeal of democracy, freedom. Even if you're looking at the Soviet Union, that wasn't necessarily a democracy. Communism was the idea that the people controlled all aspects of the government and all aspects of like production and everything, which technically would be seen as like a really, really, really democratic government if that's how it actually worked out, which it wasn't. Anyway, the thing is, when you're looking at ideology, the Axis nations were clearly the aggressors in World War II. They were the ones that invaded nations. They were the ones who made enemies of these specific nations by like exploiting and abusing the people of the countries that they conquered. And this had incited throughout the war different local resistance movements against the Axis powers. Now, by no means, the Allied powers are not perfect. They are not perfect in this. But they're still fighting for a lot of these ideals of like political independence, saying that Germany shouldn't control all these areas. And they're basically welcomed in as liberators. So looking at all of World War II, what do you think had the biggest impact on the Allies winning World War II? And why do you think that?